Bone Tomahawk, my little flute benders. And welcome to I Like to Movie, the podcast about movies. My name is Garrett Smith.
My name is Dan Scully, and
my
welcome
name is
to
Michael Yates.
Michael Yates.
Michael Yates is in the house.
Right on. Welcome to, I guess this is our second episode of our newest project, where we're going to be putting some a little bit of material on YouTube. So thanks to everybody who subscribed and checked us out. Tell your friends. And so I believe we're going to be essentially alternating this with classic episodes.
Yeah, like we put out last week. What did we do an episode on? I don't even remember now.
Last week we did an episode on Jesus. Time is just gone.
It's crazy. I'm like, we did Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Then we did Blood Quantum. And then for somehow, I don't remember what the last episode we put out was.
That's right. I pin every episode on here. Oh, we did Copland with Chris.
Copland with Chris Talber, which was wonderful. I loved that movie.
Fantastic.
Chris is the best. And so we're going to then, this will come out this Sunday. Next Sunday, we'll have another full episode come out on the podcast feed. We'll keep doing that back and forth. And
eventually, Patreon bonuses will become available. Yes, but until then, we're throwing some free stuff at you.
Yeah. So find us on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere on the internet. I Like 2 Movie. It's I Like numeric 2 Movie. Subscribe on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. Leave us a positive review.
Excellent. So we're gonna be going over just some of the stuff that we've been watching in the interim, and then our guest, who I'll give a proper intro in a second, has a really interesting fan theory about a fan favorite film, of which we've done episodes on all three. I found out and forgot.
I forgot to
locking into that. So right as his armpits on screen, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
We have one of the genius behind Atomic City Comics. We've got he's like our comic book liaison anytime we do a comic book movie.
Right.
So you've heard him before on our Endgame episode and on Black Panther and all that fun stuff. Michael Yates is here.
Hey,
what's going on, sir? How are you?
Welcome back.
I'm okay. I mean, like you said, we're all in quarantine.
How you holding up? I assume the store is closed.
The store is closed. We are open to appointments. You can come. You can get in touch with us on our Facebook page or call up the shop or basically on our Facebook page, and we can make like a 15-minute interview where you can come in. But what was really going on is, for a good month and a half, we had no books.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Diamond closed down, and that's the only place to get comics. And it was very interesting. Somebody did an article where they went, this is all Marvel's fault. and they're right, because in the 90s, and I'll try to make it quick, in the 90s, we had a bunch of different distributors. There were smaller distributors. There was Diamond. There was another big distributor called Capital City, and smaller distributors. And Marvel suddenly decided that they no longer wanted a middleman, and they bought this smaller distributor in the Midwest called Heroes World.
Heroes World?
Heroes World. That's what's the name of the distributor. And they bought it, and they announced, we will no longer be selling comics through Diamond. You will buy comics directly from us and through Marvel. So Marvel will just make all the profit. And unfortunately, because DC is like, well, if Marvel's going to drink out of the toilet, then we're going to drink out of the toilet too.
Yay, toilet party!
And DC went, well, we're going exclusive with Diamond. You'll only be able to get DC Comics through Diamond. And pretty much every retailer was like, the only other big company at that time was Image, and every other retailer was like, Image, go with Capital. Image, go with Capital. Image, go with Capital. And Image went, we're going with Diamond too.
Yeah. So
as that went on, things got crazy. Marvel was a horrible, horrible distribution arm. They did not know what the hell they were doing. They did not expect that the Wednesday that started, that suddenly their office was going to be called By the World now.
I love that it was a Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday's new book day, man.
Yeah.
So okay. That makes sense. Yeah, you're right.
That's when you got to call in. So that went on. Capital City chugged along for a little while, and I always remember one day, because we used to order from all three companies because you could get different discounts on things, and we were willing to crunch the numbers to see it. And we called my assistant manager Tam at the time. She's doing the reorders, and she doing speed dial on the phone. And she looks at the phone, clangs it up, speed dials it again, looks at the phone, and she gives the phone to me and she goes, "Do me a favor." I go, "What?" She goes, "Call Capital. Call Capital." I'm like, "Okay, fine." I hit the phone, dials the number dials, and the phone answers, and it says, "Welcome to Diamond Distributors." And I'm like, "What?" So I hang up the phone and I dial it manually, and it says again, "Welcome to Diamond Distributors."
7 days.
Look at her,
Whoa.
and I hit the number for our rep, and the guy comes on. I think his name was like Greg or something. He's like, "Hello." I'm like, "Greg, this is Michael. What the hell is going on?" He goes,
"Oh, Wednesdays, right?"
Yeah, and he just goes, dude, I'll call you back. I'll call you back. And Capital City closed down, got absorbed by Diamond. So suddenly it was Diamond and Marvel. 2 years later, Marvel realized they did not know what they were doing. It did not work, and they went back to Diamond. And then suddenly there was only one distributor, and
and that's it. And so there's no comics coming in, so no comics going out.
That's right.
Man.
Now DC is kind of broken. They've now started doing distribution through other arms. They tried to do that so they could get their comics back. Marvel decided they weren't going to start selling comics until Diamond came back, and that was also because most comic shops were closed.
Yeah.
So I think we went with the same thing of, we could get comics in, but hardly anybody can get here, and we can't get a full slate. So we'll wait. But now I think this week was the first week that we got new comics, but because it's been almost 2 months, it's a slow trickle coming out. Like I think Marvel shipped 3 books. And
do you feel confident that when all of the quarantine lifts that you'll be able to pump it right back into shape?
It's going to see what it does. Really, I mean,
if anyone can do it, it's certainly you. Because you're a mover and a shaker.
We're trying. That's why we kept. We kept. If you want to come in and get stuff, but it's really going to see. The landscape's really going to change because there are companies, there are shops that have just closed, and they won't be reopening.
Well, to everyone who's watching, Philly comic book fans, this is the guy you want to talk to. If you're bored and you want to get yourself, some comics to read, which is a good way to pass the time. This is the guy that you want to talk to. Help him out. He'll hook you up. You're good to go.
And we will. But it's going to be interesting, especially all the YouTube stuff. Oh my God, I mean, YouTube is nothing but doom and gloom. I mean, Marvel released this weird book of New Warriors that might be a satirical thing, but almost for a month, it has been nothing but people going, "It's these damn SJWs, and this is going to be the end of comics as we know it." And Marvel.
Haven't we reached like 10 different the end of comics as we know it by now? And they're stronger than ever. It's not like there's a limited number of pages. They can just tell as many stories as they want. There's no finite amount of that.
Yeah.
And it's
so
like,
ridiculous.
Guys, if you don't like it, don't buy. Well, Marvel doesn't listen to us, and they just keep doing this agenda.
Marvel listens to everybody. I mean, I don't read a lot of comics anymore, but those movies, like, they are screen tested and focus grouped till they. Marvel does nothing better than listen to people for what they want. At least in that term.
It's the usual thing, but you've heard me before. My thing that I always say is, I understand how comic shops work, and I understand that you think these certain books don't sell, but as little trades, they sell fine. Like DC's doing their YA young romance comics, like they did this Gotham High book,
and DC's doing big moves by giving HBO Max the rights and $20 million to put together Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League.
Well, I came out and I said, like, oh look, it's not going to come out for a year, which means they'll have enough time to put it together, because everybody says, "Oh, it's done." I'm like, it's not done.
It's not done.
It's probably got storyboards and stuff. Okay, guys, whatever.
Yeah.
The idea that,
but you know what though? Not gonna lie, I am so excited, because like the precedent of the idea of like pressuring things to happen, like the Sonic the Hedgehog redesign and the response to Last Jedi doing a course correction on Skywalker, to like Ghostbusters returning to the original flavor, to Snyder Cut coming out. I feel like it's like this weird bittersweet thing of like, oh wow, the creators listen to us, but then it's the bitter is like, oh shit, the creators are being like we can bully people into doing things, and it's like a weird mix, but it fascinates me.
I'm cynical about the Snyder Cut thing because I'm just like, oh, so it's going to be on HBO Max, where they need to make some money.
Well, HBO Max just did by dropping that news, they just upped their like pre-subscription rate through the roof.
Because it's not supposed to hit until May 2021.
I know. What am I going to do? How do I got to live all through the rest of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 to get to that, and I'm not confident I can do it.
And I'm also confident that they are not going to release it as one big chunk.
It'll probably be episodes. Yeah.
It'll probably be episodes to make you stay on for a month and not a week, so that they can get some money out of you.
And I've heard, I mean, Zack Snyder's a guy who likes to run long.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the cut he wants to do is like in excess of 4 hours. And whereas freak like me, I'm like, let's do it. Sign me up. I put on a diaper, sit down, and just zone out. And but in chunks, that's much better. I think that'll actually work.
But that's how I see it. But I mean, and I also will go once again. I'm one of those few people. I liked Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh yeah, we're right there with you, dude. We like that movie.
I had a very cool time with that, and I still hear people that go, "Well, this is gone." I'm like, "It's not gone."
Yeah, my DVD is still there.
I'm like, trust me, guys. In about 10 years, when those little girls and everybody else who watched it are older, you're going to see those characters show up again because they're already canon in the comic book.
Yeah, they're in the comics. I've heard they like crossed over with it.
Yeah, they did a whole big where everybody crossed over.
Yeah. I've been playing
there is nothing scarier than Egon and Holtzman in a lab together.
Yeah, that's the two smartest people.
Yeah, like,
they ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Those two. Are you letting those two by themselves in a lab? Are you insane?
I've been playing the Ghostbusters, like the remaster they did for Nintendo Switch, because it went on sale the other day for very cheap, and I was like, I just picked it up, and I started playing it, and hand on my heart, my literal thought, and you can even ask my better half, every time I'm playing it, even though it's in the flavor of Egon, Ray, Winston, Ghostbusters, every time I always lean over to her, I'm like, you got to watch that new Ghostbusters movie. And I think that's testament to the fact that the new one, any assertions that it's not of the same flavor as the original is ridiculous. It's Ghostbusters. It totally is.
Hey, I can watch on repeat over and over again. Like I said, I can watch Hoffman with her ghost guns. That scene just kicks so much ass. She goes, "Oh, that's right. I have a new toy." Like,
hell yeah. So Garrett, what have you been watching?
Oh, dude, you're gonna love this.
Quarantine. So I've been following your letterbox, so I already know the answer to this question.
Oh no, but I have surprises for you because I watched a couple of movies today, and you're gonna be pretty excited about one of them at least. So I watched Bullet this morning, the Steve McQueen car chase movie.
Okay.
Whew. Yeah. Bullet rocks. Bullet was very good.
Dude,
like that movie a lot.
That's a legendary car chase. That car shows up in everything too.
I know, yeah, I love that car. The Lalo Schifrin score, dude, so good.
One of the greats.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. And then, dude, I watched The Long Goodbye right before we started recording.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that just the best fucking movie ever?
It is so fun and like interesting, and it's like. I obviously I've seen at least a dozen movies that are clearly indebted to that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm watching that movie and I'm going like, oh, that's what this is from. Oh, that's what this is from. Oh, that's what But this movie is better than almost all of them. In my opinion, this movie was better than almost all of them. It's
if you watch Inherent Vice again, you'll appreciate it more now because of The Long Goodbye. But agreed. And as someone who really likes Inherent Vice, you're just not going to touch The Long Goodbye. That's the best of that brand ever.
A lot of those movies leave me a little cold because of and I know it's the nature of them. This is how they all are. The case is confusing to a point that it doesn't really make any sense. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of get lost in those movies a lot of times. This one did make sense, I thought. It actually does a pretty good job of, tying all the, tying a nice bow at the end and sort of, putting all the pieces together. But I get why it's the inspiration for all the movies that are a little looser with those details, you know?
Yeah.
But I just think, like, I don't know. Yeah, this one really worked for me in a way that, like, not. You know what it also reminded me of, by the way? Fletch was definitely inspired by these
right on.
characters.
Oh man, Fletch! I forgot. Oh, I love that movie.
I
will say, there's a movie, and I believe that it's on Canopy right now, so I think you can get it for free. But if you like Elliot Gould as your kind of I don't give a shit protagonist, there's a movie called The Silent Partner.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
It's also from the 70s. It's him and Christopher Plummer kind of in a battle of wits over a bank robbery.
Okay.
And Christopher Plummer's like the cold, clinical. He's the guy who robs the bank, and Elliot Gould is the guy who's just like, I could probably make some money if I go along with this kind of thing. Let's see what happens, you know. And but they get into it. It's really good, and I love Elliot Gould because he made curly hair a leading man quality. Yeah. So
there you go. I've been watching old stuff. I watched What's Up, Doc, which is one of my absolute favorite movies.
I've not seen that, Michael. I've heard that's great.
It's Barbara Streisand and Ryan O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
Tribute to screwball comedies.
Mm-hmm.
And the really great thing about this movie is like a who's who of every character comedic actor in the 70s before they hit. And to let you know how it is before they hit, one of the opening credits into the movie starts is an introducing Madeline Kahn.
She's like my favorite forever and ever, babe. I love her.
And the other thing I watched is an old indie movie, Tapeheads.
I know dude, Tapeheads.
Tapeheads is great. Yeah.
Tapeheads. Tapeheads was the movie Martin and I would watch when we first started the store. Every time we got a little, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because to cheer ourselves up, there's the rooftop scene when they're both dancing, and he goes, "How long are we going to do this, man? You know, I don't know. You know, we fake it until we make it. You know." He goes, "Well, you know what we do, man? We do it. We keep working until they come and knock down the door and drag it out of our cold hands." And
hell yeah!
And he goes, "You know that's tomorrow, right?"
Yeah.
Who made Tapeheads? Does that have a name?
Oh man,
I'll take a look.
The director.
I'll find it for us.
Yep.
The best thing about doing this show on YouTube is I just have a whole fucking computer screen in front of my face that I can look this stuff up on.
Okay, you know what? So it's Bill Fishman, but he hasn't really done anything like too major. He's done like some Nickelback videos, some Megadeth videos, Jessica Simpson. But he also did Car 54, Where Are You? He directed that one.
Since he's doing nothing but making fun of music videos. The other thing I watch Godspell again. Another
nice
guy. So,
right on.
And I made might have saw it. I made a comment on Facebook. I said, everybody talks about movies you can't make today. You know the movie you can't make today? Godspell. Because clown Jesus would freak out the conservatives.
They would go. But you know, though, it could be the biggest move because anytime that happens, it ends up just being free good press.
There is that. I mean, and then
you get the press from the audience you want.
You know, you're just kowtowing to this, and I'm like, oh. I mean, I did the show a couple of times, but I still. And the other thing about it that's wild and that comes around with this is when the movie starts. Along with they get really mad because there's a big scene there's a big musical number on the one of the World Trade Center buildings.
Oh yeah.
But the other thing is once they all go to Central Park because they hear the call of the Lord and John the Baptist baptizes everything. The rest of the movie is filmed in New York and nobody's around. The entire city is deserted.
That's wild.
And it's all like that all through the movie. And the very last scene is when they're carrying him off and singing Prepare Ye. They're walking down this Manhattan street, and it's like an empty Manhattan street. I still wonder how they did that, because New York has people on it at all times, no matter what.
I know that they shut down Times Square for, what's that movie, the Cameron Crowe movie? It's a Vanilla Sky.
Vanilla Sky.
With Vanilla Sky, there's a scene that is in Times Square and it's deserted.
Right.
And I think that it was helped along with some, post, but they did get it shut down. But I will say this, I have friends that live in New York, and some of the pictures that they're posting right now are downright eerie because there's just not many people on the streets. Everyone is sheltering in place. And so there's and a couple of the comments that people were saying is like, it hasn't been this empty since 9/11. Yeah. So like, that speaks to how much of a monumental thing needs to happen just to like shut down an area.
But that last shot is they walk down, they're carrying him, they turn the corner, and the minute they disappear, the city comes back. All these people come from around the corner, and it just gets busier and busier. And when I was watching it again and just watching that, and I forgot, I'm like, oh my God, this is like what it looks like right now. They're walking through, the Wall Street district, and it's just the 12 of them. I mean, the 8 of them. Nobody else. And it's just like, oh, this is so wild.
It's wild. I'll tell you what, speaking of untrustworthy governments, I finally sat down and watched JFK last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I took the 3 hours and 9 minutes out of my life and I watched it. And let me tell you, that is like, ooh, that's how it's done. It is, and it's funny because I'm in a little bit of a fun conspiracy theories rabbit hole in conjunction with like last podcast on the left is doing a JFK deep dive. So it's like kind of my pet project right now. So I had to watch it. So even though Oliver Stone made a movie that has some factual inaccuracies and all that, it's this really cool movie about a guy who is just all he's trying to get is for someone official to say, okay, maybe. Like, and that's what he's fighting for the entire time. And it's insane. And it also stars every actor who has ever lived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it. John Candy's in it in a really great role as a skeezy lawyer. And it's a little bit schmaltzy and melodramatic at times, but like that's part of the Oliver Stone package. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it really worked for me. It went back and to the left.
Oh yeah. Marty wrote a short story years ago about the JFK killing. And the last thing is you find out, yes, it's the shot did come from the grassy knoll. Mm. But the big reveal is the guy stands up, pulls off the hat, and it's Albert Einstein. And he goes, and that's for Marilyn, you son of a bitch. And then disappears into time travel.
Alternate ending. The guy stands up, and it's Tom Cruise. No explanation needed. And he just runs off into the distance, and we're like, well, I guess Kennedy had to have his head exploded. Because if Ethan Hunt says it so. And then just for a weird pick of something that I watched, I did watch Capone. I think that in terms of deflating the myth of the American mobster by turning him into just like a disgusting shitbag is really fantastic. But I watched a movie called The Dirties.
I really am looking forward to seeing this.
It's on Shudder right now. We did an episode on a movie called Operation Avalanche that listeners know I'm particularly fond of. This is the same filmmaker, Matt Johnson, and he sort of did a similar half guerrilla style filmmaking, half fake documentary, and it's just about these 2 geeky high school kids that are making a movie about them killing their bullies. But like one of them's kind of taking it a little bit more seriously. But it's really wild. They filmed portions of it sort of guerrilla style in an actual high school under the auspices of some other kind of filmmaking project. Yeah. So it has like a genuineness to it. And there's all these little Easter eggs of just like someone will be positioned like a classic photo from a previous event. Things like that it's just a lot of fun and it's very funny.
I heard it's really funny. Yeah,
it's really good.
Sometimes bitches gotta pay.
Highly recommend. Yeah, and because I was a kid when I was 17 years old that was making camcorder movies with my friends and my ripped jeans and my oversized shirt, it was just, it totally hit close to home. And and it's on Shudder and it's like 83 minutes long. So just like cancel a nap and watch this instead. It's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Anybody
Dude, you'll love it.
Check out that new because I saw it, but I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm trying to find it. On Hulu, the animated, here it is, Solar Opposites.
Oh no, but I've heard about this. I know what you're talking about.
I hear good things.
It's interesting. There's a real left turn in it that you kind of don't see coming.
You're like, go right, but they go left.
It's just where you're like, oh, okay, so we're going. All right.
Interesting.
Anybody else got any crazy recommendations?
On Cartoon Network right now, there is a show called Craig of the Creek that absolutely freaking rocks.
Okay. Craig of the Creek? I really like that title.
It's about a bunch of kids, and they're like in a suburban area, but the kids all hang out in the forest at this creek. And they
Craig's there.
Craig's there, and he's the cartographer. He is making a map of all the places in the creek.
Why are they not calling the show Craig the Cartographer in the Creek? You blew the rule of threes with your alliteration.
But he's
missed opportunity.
Making the map. There's all these different things. Like they have the trading post where there's basically this little girl that you do trades, and she trades with you, and you can get chips and things like that.
And now you're going to invoke chips?
Yeah.
Next thing you're going to tell me there's a carpenter. This title missed so many opportunities.
Everybody's got these weird little things. Like there's this entire cardboard city.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this Animal Crossing the show?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one of his best friends is this little girl, and she basically wants to be a knight. So she's walking around in her cape and her boots and sword, and her little bird, that's her squire, and narrating herself.
Is it a canary? Tell me the bird's a canary.
The bird, I think it might be a canary. It might really be. But it's just a wild little show, and it's like all these kids, it's half imagination. They also show kids how to make
half
stuff.
Alliteration.
It is. They show kids how to make stuff and things. I mean, they go to the one kid who's the cardboard engineer or something, and they find his
cardboard.
And they walk over, and basically it's the kid standing behind him in a box, and he's got a piece of cardboard with the keyboards all written. Craig's like, wait a minute. He left a journal. Beep, boop, boop. And the kid goes, day 3. I'm trying to do this. And it's just like, it is just so, I mean, the leaps of imagination and stuff they do is incredible. And they even almost have a Batman type character.
Of course.
There's a kid in a hood or a hood or something that's constantly watching over because Craig has found.
He's found the Caped Crusader.
Yeah, if you go under this bridge, there's another part of the creek that's ruled by this guy, and he has these guys that are all trying to find Craig because they want the map, because he's the only kid that's made a map of the map.
And he has the map tattooed all over his body. That's the only way they're going to get out.
It's rolled up in a paper and stuff, but I mean, it is
the thing that you said that interests me most is you said that it's imagination, and one of the things that I think enchants me most in cinema, it's why we do movie is like the movies that tend to test highest by us is imagination. And I think one of the few series that we've ever completed all the way through on our show was the Back to the Future trilogy. Yes. And one of the things that we always landed upon in those episodes is that those movies are high on imagination, both in terms of concept, in just plot machinations and how the execution comes out. They're very imaginative performances. The directing is cleverly done, very much in camera. And so the imagination is there. And what's so cool about imaginative movies is that they allow for you to expand upon their world. Like Avatar is a movie that's fine by me, but that's one that the imagination is capped to that world. Mm-hmm. Star Wars, on the other hand, you can kind of run free with your imagination within that. And good science fiction allows you to run free like that. And so in response to Back to the Future, you have let your imagination run free to that regard. And you have a theory about how at a point in Back to the Future 2, there are 2 Martys roaming around.
Well,
but this sort of cleans up a lot of the other, as you described it, cleans up a lot of the other, what are they called? Inconsistencies.
Yeah. Well, some.
Let's hear this theory, and we're going to try and pick it apart.
Okay. It started with the first one, because while I love that ending, anybody that really knows time travel was like, wait a minute, Marty didn't get back to where he's supposed to get back to. Because really, Marty, you come from where your dad's a loser, your mom's a loser. You went somewhere else. But in the second movie, one of the things that I was trying to find stuff, and as it went on, one of the things about that entire thing that I feel is interesting because
tell us one of the things about the entire thing.
Nobody seems to be able to get out of Hill Valley. You go from the past to the future, and the same people are all stuck in Hill Valley. It seems like nobody ever leaves that place. I mean, and from Wild West days all the way up to the present. And one of the reasons I feel that is because at one point when we were trying to map out a storyline, and that's where a lot of this came from, we realized there was something like 5 time machines simultaneously in Hill Valley. Because there's the buried one.
Right.
There's the hidden one.
You're right.
There's the one that's parked over here. I mean, there's all these, it's like, good Lord, this machine is
Wait, are we talking about in Back to the Future 2?
In Back to the Future 2.
At the end of Back to the Future 2, I believe there are only 2 DeLoreans currently in Hill Valley.
But
the third one just got zapped back to the past, but it's left in the cave that makes it present day. And then there's the one that is being rebuilt from the first movie over at the clock tower. So at that point, I think there's just 2.
There is also the one that's buried in the desert in a cave because
that's the one I'm referring to. That's one of the 2. Because the third one just got zapped back to become that one.
There's Biff.
I guess I should gesture on camera.
Yeah, there's older Biff coming back to give younger Biff stuff. Like, they're not always there forever. Sometimes they're only there for 15 minutes or so.
Right. Fair, because my favorite thing about 2 is that there's so many Biffs. That's why 2 is my favorite.
But my argument on why there is 2 Martys comes from the scene where Marty gets fired. Where older Marty gets fired by his boss.
Yes, by what's his boss's name? But Needles him into it.
Right, needles him into it. But I'm always like, hey,
played by Flea,
you can fix this. And the reason you can fix this, Marty, is because there's a time machine down the street.
And so so this Marty would, by the rules of how it's been established by Marty coming back to an altered present day, it would suggest that future middle-aged Marty, who can't play guitar anymore from that car accident, would remember the time machine.
Right.
But wait, I have a counteraction for that. But he still has his hand injury from the race that he would have had with Needles, that our Marty, the one that we follow as our center character, learns not to partake in, and thus his dreams can stay alive.
Right.
So if future Marty still has the injury that prevents him from playing guitar from the race, then it means that he has not yet been altered by the time shift and would not know about the time
I would
shift.
argue that he does, because one of the things that's going on is this Marty still knows one thing, and and even before we get to altering Needles, you got back with your girlfriend from having a time adventure with Doc. Doc showed up and said, your kid's about to screw up. We got to go fix it. I think you'd remember that date. I think you'd be sitting in the house that day, and when your kid comes bouncing down the stairs and goes out the door, you know that today's the day that Doc and you came back to keep him from getting in trouble with Biff.
So you're saying by virtue of him still being married to Elizabeth Shue, we'll call her,
Jennifer,
by him
right?
still being Jennifer, that's it. By him still being married to her in the future, I don't think that necessarily strongly suggests that they went through the same adventure. Because one of the things that's consistent throughout all of Back to the Future is that there are certain patterns. Biffs are attracted to getting crashed into manure. So perhaps they were fated to be together regardless of whether they went on the adventure.
I'll give you that, but I still say there's a time machine down there.
Fair. I'm sorry that I keep cutting you off. I'm obsessed with these movies, so but I want to understand.
I think there are 2 Martys. That's the Marty I think is the second Marty who doesn't know about any of this stuff. I think that might actually be the Marty that we should know that didn't go back into the future.
So let's establish then that what you're referring to assumes that future 2015 Marty from Back to the Future 2 does indeed have some memory of the time travel.
Well, he should, and if he doesn't, then that means he's not the Marty we know, and we now have two Martys.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, now I'm there.
Now I'll also admit, Martin used to always say something that you only have an idea for a small amount of time, and then somebody else comes up with it, because this all came from, we were trying to pitch to Dark Horse at the time a Back to the Future 3. We were going to do Back to the Future 4. It was going to be called Back to the Future 4.
I know you don't like that Old West one, but it exists, damn it. It exists.
It's not that I don't.
He invents a Frisbee.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just that I really wanted a hardcore time travel film. And I always used to say that the problem with doing one is by the time you explain all the rules of time travel to the audience, it's time for the movie to be over.
Yeah.
And I thought that second one really explained all the concepts. So I was like, oh my God, the third one is going to be like time travel crazy. And the one that we were doing when we were coming up, we were going to do it as a 4-issue comic book series.
What did you say it was called, Michael?
It was called Back to the Future 4 Hard Time.
Hard Time. Okay.
Hard Time. I love it.
And it even comes up with a reason on why Jennifer slept all through the second movie. Because that's one of the things I remember at the end of the movie when he goes back and gets her, or I mean the third, I think it's the second movie when he goes, a guy in the back, I always remember some guy in the back, it was the second or the third movie, he goes and gets her, screamed, oh my God, you mean that bitch slept through 2 movies? And, our thing was all about, I was very proud of the covers, because the covers were going to mimic all the Back to the Future movies. It was going to be, the first one was just Marty standing at the DeLorean. The second one was going to be Doc and Marty standing at the DeLorean. The third one was going to be Marty, Doc, and his girlfriend about to get into the DeLorean. But in every coverage, you folded it out. The first one you didn't see anything. The second one you started to see this little dust cloud in the back. The third one you make out that it's a DeLorean. And the fourth one is the DeLorean is parked, they're all standing, and another Marty's running out of the DeLorean toward them.
Mm-hmm. The second Marty.
And the whole thing.
But where does that leave what's her name? I want her.
Well, I don't know. We would come with put her somewhere. But the whole thing was how they had to reset Hill Valley.
Yeah.
Because they realized messing around, they kind of turned Hill Valley into this time vortex.
Yeah, that's a wild idea. I like
that idea.
And because people are kind of, like you said, stuck in that dome.
Right. And the only way to reset Hill Valley was to drive across it at 87.9 miles an hour. And Jennifer was going to have to do it because she's the only one that didn't screw around. Meanwhile, while she's doing it, Marty and Doc are just constantly winking out in between because of all the time.
That's true, because she gets removed from the thing and is just put on the bench. Right. And then as they're shifting around time, she's like the one constant.
Yes.
She's the Fisher Stevens to the what's the guy's name from Lost? Oh no, I've forgotten his name. Desmond.
Yeah.
And we also had a Biff thing because we had like Biff's grandson or something who was like, no. You know why I don't like you, McFly? Because you guys,
you're a butthead.
No, you guys fucked with my family. I got to see what we used to be like. But because of you and the mad scientist, my family has to pay the price for that. That's bullshit.
You know what I think, though? I'm going to offer a rewrite. Yeah. I think if there was a fourth Back to the Future, so we had Buford Tannen in the Old West, then we had Biff Tannen, the original, then we had Griff Tannen. Yeah. I think we should do a gender swap and make it Tiff Tannen. And she's brassy, just like, listen up, butthead! and she would be just as abrasive and awful as Biff, but we got to maintain that name game, and Tiff works.
Yeah, that's great.
I might not make her doing stuff like Butthead, but I would definitely do something where she has figured out how to mess with time too. And it's like,
Butthead, yeah. She's got to end up in manure.
Yeah.
She will end up in manure, and she does have to like screw up a cliche. She has to be like, like, why don't you make like a tree and get the hell out of here? That kind of thing.
Now, at the same time, I probably wouldn't have her get hit by manure, and that would be the signal that Marty would be like, oh shit.
Oh, things changed.
She gets out of the way, and it's like, uh-oh, okay. She's going to be a problem.
Yeah. No, instead of her getting hit by manure and being like, I hate manure, and instead of her dodging it, how about she gets hit by the manure and then goes, manure? I love manure. Whoa!
No, I like her. I'm just going, uh-oh. Doc, we got a problem. Why? Yes, Marty? It seems that she has more than 2 brain cells to rub together. Our most feared thing, a clever tannin.
Yeah, and then she goes, Marty. She's covered it. She missed the manure, and she says, Marty, you need to make like a tree and leave. And then they're all, and yeah, I'm into it. So
trying to steal, or even having her try to steal Marty. Marty doesn't know who she is at first.
Now, operating in the movies, with the assumption that future Marty in 2015 does remember the time travel. With that as the constant here, bring me the second Marty. Sell me on it.
Well, wait a minute. So you're now telling me the future Marty,
Well, isn't that the anchor of your thing, is that future Marty would know about another time machine?
The anchor of my thing was that if it wasn't, or if there weren't 2 Martys, he would know. Since he doesn't seem to be doing anything, I say he doesn't know, and that means there's 2 Martys.
Okay, I misunderstood. I gotcha.
That's why I said, I kept on going, why doesn't he do something with the time machine? What? Oh my God, there's 2 Martys.
Right. Why wouldn't this broken Marty that can't play guitar anymore because of this accident, why wouldn't he use the machine he knows about to go prevent that from happening?
Right. There's all sorts of things that he could do.
Right.
He can, and remember, since he can set it, he doesn't have to be gone for more than 30 seconds.
Right.
Just dumb alone. I've lost my job. This has gone over. Right. Pick up the newspaper, look at the lottery number, go down to the thing, jump into the car, drive back a day, run down to the supermarket,
right.
buy a lottery ticket,
get
back in the car, drive back to the day to tomorrow. 30 seconds later, oh, it's okay, honey. I lost my job, but I've got a ticket for $40 million.
Yeah. So the fact that there is a Marty that is as broken as this Marty is evidence that he doesn't know that
he's not the same Marty.
Yeah.
Now, the operating theory that I always go by in terms of like the rippling effect of any alteration in time, I try to gauge it by the timeline of the photograph in the first movie, because it's as there's less of a likelihood that George and Lorraine are going to get together, there's less of a likelihood that the people in the photo will exist. And so it's, you like that little visual I did with my mustache comb? Didn't exist. And so it happens slowly. And so I operate from the theory that is the function of the flux capacitor. The flux capacitor acts as a capacitor for flux. And so as things are fluxing, it allows that time delay. It's like putting a delay on your emails so you can unsend because you accidentally typed titty or something. And like and so the flux capacitor slows that so that there's more room to correct. That's my...
Now, we don't really have one of those disappearing... Do we have one of those disappearing tropes in 2?
Oh, like where something's disappearing from a picture or something? Not that I recall.
There is one thing. It's in...
Oh, the headlines, the newspaper headlines about
the
his
newspaper
kids.
Headlines change. And then also there's a scene where after old Biff drops the Gray's Sports Almanac off in the 50s, he comes back to 2015, gets out of the car, and then starts to... does that. And so it suggests that it took that interim delay from when he made the change to getting back to that timeline, which I think is the flux capacitor preventing too many segmentations of the timeline.
Yeah, Dan, you just made me think of this. Literally, the design of the flux capacitor is 2 disparate lines coming together and creating one. And I feel like that's kind of the idea of like what it does, right? Is that like they're aware that the nature of the story they're telling means there's got to at least be two timelines at any given time, right?
Yeah.
But that the nature of this thing is to bind those timelines together into a single result at some point, as opposed to allowing for splintering timelines.
Or even to take something back to this boat, though, if you did it were there, it wouldn't be as cool at the end. It's like, Marty, since he now knows that he can do it, next time he goes back, he goes over to Western Union and goes, here, I want you to send this to myself in about 15 years in the morning. Hey, stupid, don't get into an argument with your boss today.
I want to see actually that side movie where it's just like some guys like that, what's his name, Joe Flaherty, who plays the guy who brings in the letter. I've got something for you. A letter.
That scene
I want a side movie of him getting a job at the post office and him being like, what's that old envelope over there? And they're all like, craziest thing. But then he's fascinated by it. He's like, really? Someone actually dropped that off? Can I deliver it? That's in like 2 weeks. They're like, yeah, whatever, buddy. And then Marty's there. The reality shift. But I wanted to say, though, about the flux capacitor, it's Marty, even in the name. Because a capacitor in electronics is meant to hold on to a charge and then disperse a charge in whatever interval that capacitor does. And so preventing flux, which means change, I think the flux capacitor's job is exactly that, to be a bank of sorts to collect all of the changes so that there's not too many splinterings in the timeline, and then reassemble it as things start to naturally come together.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're getting like really complicated, but it's almost like it creates like a temporal bubble within which a lot of different time things can happen, and on the other side of which there's like a result,
Which speaks to the idea of once that time machine was involved with Hill Valley, Hill Valley became that bubble you speak of, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Where because it's moving around, the flux capacitor is like nobody in, nobody out.
And I think like the more times, I would guess, if we're right about the nature of it and how it works, right? Like the more times you use it, the more you're sort of expanding that temporal bubble. Like it starts to envelop more and more and more to the point where now there's a 200-year span in which there's at least two of these time machines just sitting around Hill Valley. Do you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that's why when two people from two different times, at least in this world, see each other, one either passes out, which automatically prevents any further splinterations of the time, or they say it could be a catastrophic chain reaction of deaths and circumstances of just, Final Destination style, the flux that happened correcting itself.
Because it's still got to get back to...
Still got to get back to the future.
That we wanted to fold in on that thing. I mean, one of the things that we like I said, and Rick and Morty later did it, because Martin and I did have a scene where you were going to find out there was what we called the Council of Doc and Marty's. That are
oh my God. It's like the Reeds.
Because one of the first things we were going to change and we were going to say is right at the beginning, that phone call that Marty gets, that he runs out and meets Doc, that's not his Doc. That's a Doc from the future. And in fact, when Doc puts Einstein in the car and sends him forward, he's actually sending the car to Jennifer because she's going to. So she and Einstein can race across time.
Which really means when she rolls up at the end, she can roll up with Twin Pines Mall version of Einstein.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
That's really good.
We were just messing. We're like, okay, how can we just? I mean, and I also will do a shout out if you haven't read them. Oh my God, pick up the Back to the Future comics.
Okay, they're good.
Because Bob Gale, he did it for IDW, did it for about 3 or 4 years. Bob Gale wrote a bunch of Back to the Future comics.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah,
I liked when they talked about, they're talking about, no, we won't do a reboot. You don't do a reboot. Because I was like, you know what I'd really love to do if they did it. And, I would say, one, I would gender swap it. It would be Marty's daughter. And she finds an old VHS tape. Old VHS tape. Has to go find something to play it on. And it's basically all the footage that Marty's recording when they first use it.
Cool.
And
I'm looking. There's like 5 trades of Back to the Future stories.
Yep.
That's
and
wild.
At one point, like, you're talking about the car accident and everything, and she maybe finds out because Marty's dead, but they find out something out, and the whole thing is, wow, maybe they're twins. Like, it's like, dude, what? We got to go save Grandpa.
And look, in this one, it looks like Doc's in jail.
Yeah, he is.
That looks wild.
Yeah, I at one point I wrote like a short story that was about my theory about the end of Back to the Future, because I think the end of Back to the Future is like one of the craziest things ever, where Marty like gets back to 1985,
right?
Like a few minutes before he actually leaves. So, like, there are actually 2 Martys at the end of the first Back to the Future. He arrives just before he leaves, and so like I wrote this story about how that means that there's always a Marty that's leaving, and there's always a Marty that's arriving. Which always leaves a Marty that's just there.
Yep.
So upon the first creation of that loop, there's just always going to be infinitely more Martys popping up behind him, like at the mall.
Yeah.
And it was like a short story where I just repeated the story over and over again, but each time there's more Martys and more things are happening. Basically, it ends with like there become so many Martys, there's just a mountain of Martys, and it changes the mass of the Earth, and the Earth pulls the moon into itself, and it's the apocalypse.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that idea. One
of the other things that holds on to my argument of you would know it is because when Marty comes back, even though Doc told him no, it's like, what happened? Oh, because that's one of the other things about the movie, and the movies and everything, which makes me argue with things. Everything Doc tells Marty he can't do, Doc does.
Oh yeah, he's irresponsible as shit.
We talk about that on our episodes. Yeah. The reason is, even though he's friendly, he is still in his heart a mad scientist. Yeah. And the one thing that bonds all mad scientists is that against their better judgment, they just can't help themselves. Yeah. They have to push that envelope. And that is the one thing, like, and even though his curiosity is innocent and not, an evil mad scientist, their curiosity is usually rooted in power. Like, what can I accomplish with this? His is more of like well, what can I discover? And even if all he discovers is disaster, his curiosity, which is honestly, and I love 3, but that's one of the most chilling aspects of 3 is that Doc has had his tampering with the space-time continuum validated as something that led to him having his dream life. Yeah. And do we trust him responsibly with his time train to act with this power, as a sane man? At this point, I don't know.
I know. That's what I like. It's like, no, Marty, you shouldn't, don't meet yourself. It might tear the universe asunder. Oh, there's me. Hey, what's going on, me?
Yeah. Great Scott, what a handsome guy. And he goes,
don't tell yourself stuff. Okay, I read it and I put the plate under my chest so I wouldn't die.
Well, this was a real delight here, Michael. Thank you for sharing your 2 Marty theory. That was really fun.
Because I think you're right. I think the way that we figured it out there, like, there is multiple Martys running around. Yeah. But I contend until the flux capacitor says, "I no mas."
Yeah.
If Martin was still around, he would have been, oh my God, are we going with this 2 Marty thing again? I'm like, yes, we're going with 2 Marty.
We're going to do 3 Martys. We'll do 4 Martys, all the Martys. You ever see Jet Li's The One? It'll be Marty McFly, The One, but it'll be the 2, the 3.
That's right. Michael, do you have anything you want to plug for people here? I mean, obviously, people should check out Atomic City Comics if they have any comics needs right now.
Atomic City Comics. I caught the first episode of Stargirl and I absolutely love it.
Cool.
So listeners should check out Stargirl.
Check out Stargirl. It's a cool. I mean, and it's funny. I kept seeing the girl and I kept going, I know her from something. What do I know her from? And I looked her up and it's like, oh, she was on that silly Bella and the Bulldogs show on Nickelodeon where she was like
another alliterative title.
The one girl on the football team who was the kicker. And I think it lasted like a season.
Bobby Boucher.
It was called Bella and the Bulldogs. But
so people should check out Stargirl and Bella and the Bulldogs.
Stargirl. It's a great, and
And that's on what channel is that on?
That's on the CW.
It's on the CW. You should also check out I Like to Movie. We are at I Like to Movie with the numeric 2 on everything. Yeah. Stay tuned for some Patreon updates. We'll be coming at you back and forth between YouTube shows and episodes of the show Classic, coming at you from all sides, I guess we'll say. Yeah. I'm at Dan Scully on Twitter, on Letterboxd, and you can check out cinema76.com as well as Findy.com.
Yeah, and you can find me on Letterboxd and Twitter at Philadelphia. That's with an F. Just wrote a big Godzilla article over on cinema76.com.
The Mothra theory.
Yeah, the Mothra rule.
Mothra
so
rule, that's it. Yeah, it's really good. It made me want to watch some Godzillas.
Oh, yeah. What?
And one more plug. It's coming in, I think it's coming sometime next week. I'm looking forward to it. It looks beautiful, and it makes fun of somebody that I feel needs to be made fun of, which is I'm really looking forward to Netflix and this new Steve Carell show, Space Force.
Yes.
Me too.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah. Let's wrap this thing up.
I think it's also going to be like Fred Willard's last show.
Oh yeah. Throw a big RIP out there to Fred Willard. Yeah, I mean, Fred, legend status.
What a talent he was. Oh my God.
Oh, what happened? Yeah, he was the man.
Old and died. Unfortunately, it happens. But I think he's on that show. I was just catching,
he's immortal.
Yeah, he is.
He lives forever. We got to wrap this up though, so we're gonna close it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We'll do our little sign-off game, which I think you probably know at this point. My name is Garrett Smith, and I like to movie.
My name is Dan Scully, and I like to movie.
And my name is Michael Yates, and I like to movie.
We all know that you like to movie because we
like to movie.
It's always the best on video.